use the chat to share your experience, ask questions. We want this to be an interactive and engaging conversation for all of you. To get us started, I'd also like to hand it over to our panelists to introduce themselves. Alexis already shared their names and titles, but maybe Becky and Keri, you can share how long you've been at Shipt and why workplace diversity is so important to you. Becky, why don't we start with you?
All right. Morning, everyone. And really excited to be here as part of the panel, and welcome to Shipt. I have been with Shipt for a year, and I have a long history in retail. So 20 plus years, which is terrifying to say out loud, but at 4 different retailers, and was really excited to come to Shipt and lead these 2 different teams that work on our marketplace experience. And it's the culture that got me over here. It's just an inclusive, welcoming, supportive culture. And why diversity is important, I think it's just obvious, right? We need, it's who our customers are. It's how we get different perspectives to learn and grow and just become better people. And so just a quick answer, it's super important to me. I love connecting. I love learning and growing. And I think we can all learn a lot from one another. Keri?
Yeah, hey, thanks. And welcome everybody. I always love a good pump up the music to get us rolling on. Super energizing. So I'm Keri Steele. I'm VP of Engineering for our Marketplace and Marketing Group. So every time you come to shipt.com, you use our web or our app, we reach you an email, a push message, everything that powers that technology behind it. I've been at Shipt for 1 year. I'm loving it here. When I started talking to Shipt, a big driver for me was the culture, and it's an amazing work culture at Shipt. Why workplaces or diversity in the workplace is important to me? I would say maybe 2 big things. I'll make them quick, but two big reasons. First is diverse teams get great results. You know, right? Working with diverse perspectives, pushing each other, it makes for such a great team atmosphere and culture. It's a bit of what Becky was saying with her opening comments as well. So first, just diverse teams, great results. It's who's shopping with us. It's our team. It's what we want to be. And the second is I've been in tech for about 25 years. Growing up in tech, mostly a minority, and almost being at throughout my education and in my work environment. And so I want to see the tech industry continue to be more diverse and inclusive.
Awesome. Thank you both. The topic of today's conversation is cultivating courage and connection, specifically for women in tech. So let's start there. What do you believe are the benefits of having empowered women in an organization? And Keri, do you want to kick us off?
Yeah, sure. But the word empowered maybe it's a big word, but empowerment is about having knowledge, confidence, the ability to make decisions and get results. And honestly, being in an organization that empowers individuals, really, for me, it means that my voice is heard, I'm respected, it gives me confidence, and it encourages me to learn and make decisions and do it in a safe space. And so I just believe empowering really helps people grow who they are, and it helps organizations grow.
Thank you. Becky, what about you?
Yeah, to add on to that, I think you guys, I shouldn't say you guys, but I'm from Minnesota. That's what we say. We are over 50% of the population. So it's obvious, right? We need to empower women in the workplace and support one another and be a place where we can be our authentic selves, like Keri said. And I support that a ton. And it's also good for business. We are more than half of the population, and we make huge decisions in how we would spend our money every day and support our families and friends. So it is hugely important to our business. So it's just, to me, it's just an obvious thing we got to do, right? And I am a woman. So, having the support from partners, leaders, allies is hugely important to my career. And I try and do that with my team as well.
Love that. Yeah, and I think you both mentioned in your intros the value and significance of diverse perspectives. So when we empower women to use their voice and share their experience in the workplace, then we all benefit from that. So thank you both. Next question, given the clear importance of empowering women at work, what do you think is currently the most significant barrier to female leadership, female empowerment, and how can we maybe begin to dismantle that?
I can start that one. I think there's a few things, and I won't speak for the entire population of women here, but I think earlier in my career, certainly it was a very big choice between family and career. And if you wanted mobility and advancement and growth in your career, it was, you kind of had to make that choice. How much do I want to grow my career? And I had a lot of family, friends, peers, partners that were women that opted out of the workforce to stay home, which is a fantastic choice for them. And I think as a community of women, we can also be really ruthless to each other about those choices and decisions to work or to stay home. And how do we instead think of uplifting each other in our choices? But now I think as a working mom, it's actually taught me to be a better leader. And even in the time of COVID, it's brought a lot more in kind of authenticity with people having their families home. And it's a much more active conversation about it being a working mom. You don't have to hide it. You don't have to be like, worried that you're going to be thought of negatively if you have to prioritize a family event. And now I think it's actually a positive, and we're supporting those choices and prioritizing family in the workplace.
Yeah, thank you, Becky. Keri?
I love that, Becky. And I maybe just adding on a couple of things. I think where you're going is a bit of we need support systems. And what I mean by a support system, it looks like mentorship, advocacy, encouragement during those life stages, whatever that might be. It might be you're moving to a new location, you're starting a family, you're helping out a parent or a friend who's going through a difficult time. It's support also looks like educating people around you and providing everybody with similar opportunities. And we can all make a difference in this, on the education standpoint. Just a quick story to make that real is having the conversation. So the group I work with is a phenomenal group of leaders on my team. We openly talk about, are we providing everybody in our engineering team the same set of opportunities to advance at the same rate? When we use words such as XYZ, did we bring that in a way that maybe somebody in the team didn't take it in a supportive way? What do we do about that? Like just making it a conversation and providing all of that support that we need to give each other to feel like we can foster and work in really safe spaces.
Yeah, thank you, Keri. I think having other people's perspectives and understandings also makes us aware of our own biases or things that maybe we might have missed in those conversations. So that's great. You both mentioned spending much of your career working in the tech world. So whether learned from experience or through mentorship, like you mentioned, Keri, through good advice or maybe bad advice that you've heard, as women or just generally, maybe you can share with us something significant that you have learned along your own career journey.
Yeah, I think I've learned what confidence means to me. So I've gotten some bad advice that confidence is about just saying what you want and not compromising, and you got to be just stick to it. And then other times I've learned that but there's confidence of what it means to me individually, and what's the good advice I've gotten in confidence around knowing who you are, what your strengths are, bringing those to the table, feeling that having the self-awareness that you can make an impact. And so for me, confidence is all about when the doubt creeps in, that I'm telling the doubt from myself is creeping in, is setting it aside, put the negativity aside, listen to the parts that will help me drive better. Where is the good in it? where are the places that when I do have a setback, I can learn from the setback. I can see quickly through the self-doubt and get to the point where I continue to build confidence about what I'm good at, how I can bring that to a way to have a positive impact on the team and people I work with.
Yeah, and I'll add on to that. I think earlier in my career, I was a buyer at, I won't name the company, but I'm sure you can all check it out on LinkedIn. And it was pretty male dominated. And I had never had a female leader. And I had a lot of feedback about approach. And I think women get a lot of feedback about approach more so than different, men or other communities. And I think at that time, I tried to change how I was a buyer. So how I was negotiating and be a little more intense and tough. And it just didn't feel right or natural to me. And so I had a specific female leader when I moved into the e-commerce world. And it was a little before that. She became my mentor about a year before that. And she was like, is it changing the results you bring with doing it your way? And I was like, heck no, it's not. I'm actually delivering more with the way to create relationships and connect. And that's natural to me. It's authentic to me. And so doing things my way and being authentic to who I am actually produce great results. So I think I learned two things. It's be yourself, because that's when you're going to be at your best, right? And then be okay pushing back and saying, hey, is my performance like hindered because of it? Let's compare, let's talk about it and push a little bit. And I wasn't totally comfortable at that time in my career. And we actually talked about this in another panel earlier in the week, but I think that happens a lot when we're younger in our careers and we just, don't feel empowered at that time. But it's just a really good reminder that results and how we get there, people can take different paths and how they get to the end, but let's look at the outcome in a lot of cases.
Yeah, that's great, Becky. I love the question that your mentor asked you. And that actually leads us perfectly into our next question. Sparking connections is part of our purpose at Shipt, and it's a key theme of today's conversation. So I'd love to ask you both, how can we authentically develop women's connections to one another? And maybe more specifically, how do each of you communicate and stay connected to the women that you work with to support their professional growth and your own?
I can start us off. I think there's the informal, and then there's more of the formal connection. So the informal part of the connection is just building authentic relationships where, and when I use the word authentic in this case, I mean being vulnerable with the people that I'm connecting with and helping them and leaning on them to say, hey, I'm in this challenging situation, or I ran into this time when something happened, or I need advice on how to move through XYZ. And just, I don't have to have all the answers. I don't. And so I love using my connections and those relationships as a way for people to also, be able to just share with them, be vulnerable, and look for what thoughts they have on it. The second, more the informal, is we stay, connected through. We're a big user of Slack at Shipt. We have channels that we have set up to more authentically, or more to build connections with communities of people that you want to build them with. Using LinkedIn is another, great way to stay connected. And so I try to go after both the personal relationships and some of the just digital tools we have available to us. What about you, Becky?
Yeah, and adding on to that, I think it's really important to have a board of directors, like have different people in your board that bring in different roles, right? You can have allies and women and people you worked with in the past and prior leaders and current leaders, and what is the role that you want that person on your board of directors to play for you? Because the other thing I would say, and my team, we've been talking about this a lot lately, don't only surround yourself with people that are your yes people, right? Who do you trust to give you productive feedback, right? And help you think through the hard problems, and won't only kind of bring the roses and sugar every time. So I think that's really important in your board of directors. But as women, I think, like I said earlier, we can be ruthless to one another, you guys. So how do we break down those walls sooner and support one another and flip our thinking sometimes to say, okay, how do I seek to understand? How do I learn? How do I connect and build relationships to uplift one another in this environment? So I think relationships, like Keri said, it's all about relationships and connecting and building trust.
Yeah.
And I just want to add on really quick to one thing Becky said about kind of a diverse board of directors, right? Is having different perspectives of people who are advocating for you from different backgrounds, different gender, like whatever that is huge, because right then it's like you've got people who can represent you in no matter kind of where a conversation happens, either an opportunity for a new work experience or helping you see like something that's being talked about as something maybe that I have a skill I could leverage. And so it like I love that you brought that point up, Becky. It's really important.
Yeah, thank you both. And thank you for speaking to the significance of having vulnerable conversations. I think having leaders who make space for that is what helps us, like you were talking about, Becky, sort of break down those walls and be more connected to each other and supportive of each other. So now let's take some questions from the audience. I see one question from Maylene in the chat. How did you build your confidence when you first started in the industry?
I can start with that one. I think part of it was just being an expert in what I knew. If I didn't know the info going into a meeting, I wouldn't feel confident to speak up, nor maybe should I have spoken up. But knowing my work, my trade, my business, that really empowered me to say, hey, no, I've got this. I know this. And then I felt empowered to speak up. I think also align yourself with your leader or a peer, or, if you're in a cross-functional team, like, how do you work together to support one another? Like, hey, Keri, that was a great point you made in that meeting. So you can bring, voices that aren't heard as frequently, for example, that might be a way to pull forward different voices. But certainly for me, it was connecting with people, leaders, and getting my voice heard, but knowing my stuff really gave me that confidence. What about you, Keri?
Yeah, I like that. And I'll just share something I just went through with somebody recently who was getting an opportunity for a new role, and they were hesitant for the role. And I was like, why? Right? I mean, you have these skills, and it was their confidence. They were it was more about like, well, what if I don't do well in it? I'm like, well, what's the biggest thing that happens if you don't do well in it?
Or what if you do well in it, right?
Exactly, right? We love to tell our stories about the negative consequences of things. Instead, tell yourself the story, and you might have to do it over and over and over. Tell yourself the story of the great outcome that you could have, what you might learn, like Becky and I've made a ton of mistakes. But every one of those mistakes, you reflect on it, you know where the mistake happened, you figure out what to listen to and what you don't of it, right? You're going to get a bad advice along the way. You ask people like, was this good advice or bad? And you just keep building on the experiences, but you have to be courageous enough to allow yourself to have different experiences and know not all of them are going to go well. And that is absolutely okay, because you did the experience. That is what's doing well. It doesn't matter how it ended up. If you don't ever try it, you're never going to learn it.
I love that, Keri, and we're going rogue here, Jenna, so keep us in line. But I think I've certainly learned the most when I failed or had the really tough work environments. And it really pushed me to think of what's important to me and my values and what I'd look for in the next company, which is quite honestly a lot of the reason that brought me to Shipt. It is important for me to work for a company that values diversity, that hears voices, that allows me to be my authentic self. Because I've worked at places where that wasn't the case. And so I think, those failure moments are just as or more important than always winning at everything you do.
I love that. I especially love the idea of giving as much weight to the potential for a positive outcome as the potential for a potential failure, but also finding value in both sides of the experience. Let's see if we have any other questions in the chat. I don't see anything, but I know we had one audience submitted question beforehand. So I'll ask that now. Can you share a bit more about gender fluid identity and specifically how Shipt is seeking to include and connect trans and gender fluid femme identifying people in the queer community?
I can get us rolling, and then Becky or Jenna, please add on. Hopefully you've started to hear a bit of through how Becky and I have been sharing our experiences here at Shipt of like the values at Shipt. We say and live that, you know, we are about diversity and equity and inclusion, and we want to make sure that we support that at Shipt. We support each other's individual uniqueness. We want to have a positive impact on our communities and the culture that we have, and we want that to feel right. Everybody to feel like they belong and are valued here. We have a few different ways we do it. We have ERGs at Shipt. We also have a chosen name program or initiative where, as a shopper, you choose the name and how you want to identify, or with internally the places like that my name shows up in a Slack channel or within email or whatever that might be. I get to choose how I show up and the name that I want to have represented and what is most important to me. And so we definitely not just say we want to do these things, but also have ways by which we support that within our teams.
Yeah, and you said it all, Keri, but I think calling out that we have different benefits programs to make sure that we have resources for all team members, because belonging, authenticity is extremely important for us. And those employee resource groups that Keri mentioned, we have several, we have 5. And one of those being our LGBTQIA plus group. And it's just a great place to make connection, belonging, meet other people. It's been so valuable. I'm part of as you see my background, I'm part of the Women's Empower group, and it's been a great way to connect with others and learn from one another. And yeah, belonging and authenticity are really important to us here.
Yeah, thank you both. The only thing I would add to what Becky just said is that authenticity is a core value at Shipt. And I think the vulnerable conversations that Keri mentioned earlier, we're having them all the time. I've had them, I'm just coming up on a year myself, and I've had them with my leader. I have had them in ERG groups. There are a lot of incredible spaces within Shipt and just within the organization overall that allow for us to really be our authentic selves. So thank you both. I just want to ask one more question before we wrap up, and that is, what fulfills you? What gives you strength as women in the workplace?
I can go, I suppose. I think for me, it's relationships and connection. And, you know, that fulfills me. I get energy from my team every day, my partners. Keri's one of those fabulous partners right here. We have a lot of fun together. We laugh, we support each other, we back each other up. And it's for me, it's relationships. And then also I'd say seeing my team grow in their careers is super fulfilling to me and you know what I do. And then you can't forget about the backbone of what I do. It's my family, right? They're there supporting me and cheering me on. And, you know, that is hugely important for me to be successful.
I share a lot of the same sentiments. Like, what fulfills me is working with people that respect different perspectives and backgrounds and encourage each other. And Becky said it right. Like, there's times where her and I get it wrong and we call each other on it. And there's times we crush it and we're doing it well and we're like cheering each other,
Yeah,
you know, and be like that's what we need to do more of. Or like, why aren't we doing this? I have no idea. We got to get it going on that. Right.
Yep.
And
Yep.
it gives us strength. It helps us, you know, we push each other, but I want to work in a place that does it holistically and respects those different perspectives. And that really, that's what fuels me to come to, my work life every day.
Love it. Thank you both. This was an amazing conversation. Before we wrap it up, I want to highlight just a few of the many key points that were shared. I was furiously taking notes over here because there's so many good perspectives, but just talking about the value of diversity and how diverse perspectives not only make our business better, but they make us better as people. Really highlighting support systems, so mentorship, advocacy, encouragement, and really understanding that people are at different life stages. So working to have vulnerable conversations and help each other through that. Support also looking like educating the people around you and being open to being educated yourself through those open conversations. Love the question that Becky, your mentor, shared with you at one point. Is this changing the results that you bring when you don't do it your way? And really highlighting the significance of doing what's natural and authentic to you. And then Keri, you talked a lot about how we build connections both personally and professionally. So, being vulnerable with the people that you're connecting with, leaning on them during challenges, and also using the digital platforms that we have, whether that's Slack or LinkedIn, as a way to stay connected and build your network with other people. And then finally, I think the board of directors was a point that I really loved, just really finding people who can play different roles for you in your work and in your life, and support you and be people that you can support as well. Actually, one more thing. I also want to add on the potential for positive outcomes. I thought that was a great one and one that I need to remember myself. So thank you both for that.
That was an impressive summary, by the way, while you're moderating.
Of course, I only, partially selfishly want to remember all of this for myself, but certainly want to share with everybody else as well. I also want to share, I think you all can see on the screen right now, some of the ways that we support women and all employees at Shipt. There's a lot of great information listed here on this slide, but I would specifically like to call out some of our health and wellness benefits. So Shipt offers a lot of non-traditional benefits that support you and your family, including medical, telemedicine, and employee assistance programs, fertility, adoption, and surrogate support. We have a financial wellness partner. We also have a benefits partner that offers flexibility to support the health and wellness of your life kind of holistically, where you can get points every month and trade those with 100+ different vendor options and a whole lot more. Becky and Keri also mentioned our ERGs. So we have 4 employee resource groups right now, which are built by the current and future leaders of Shipt. This is a group of really passionate employees who go above and beyond to support a diverse, engaged, and purpose-driven community at Shipt. And then we have a lot of career growth opportunities. So we have an education benefit through Guild. I actually just finished up a course, a certificate program with them recently, and it was wonderful. We have our Pivot Tech Scholarship. So if you're interested in learning more about how you can get into a very specific technical career, whether that's engineering or something else. And we have a whole lot of other great career growth opportunities. We're actually coming up on a development week very, very soon. I think it's next week. So I'm really looking forward to that and the opportunity to further build out my career growth plan within Shipt and just within my profession overall. So thank you all for joining this panel conversation and the first half of today's event. We're really grateful for your time, your energy, your attention. Thank you, Becky and Keri, for your thoughtful comments and your willingness to share your experience and advice. And with that, I will turn it over to Ashley on our talent acquisition team.